Life in the military, as I've come to understand it, is a strange tapestry woven with threads of profound boredom, bone-deep terror, and almost constant, low-level absurdity. It is a place where the mundane and the surreal often collide, creating memories that are less about grand patriotic gestures and more about the visceral human experience. The stories I carry with me, the ones that resurface late at night over a beer, are not the epic tales of valor you see in movies. They are the small, weird moments that define the experience. A collection of oddities and sensory memories that, taken together, paint a far more accurate picture than any official report ever could. These are the moments that stick with you, not because they changed the world, but because they changed your perspective, however slightly. The Great Dock Bomb Scare, it was a quiet period stateside. The kind of quiet that lulls you into a false sense of security, where the most pressing issue is whether the coffee machine is working. We were stationed at a large, sprawling logistics base, a seemingly endless landscape of concrete and steel. My days were a blur of paperwork, inventory checks, and the rhythmic, numbing rhythm of forklifts moving pallets around a cavernous warehouse. The most exciting thing to happen on a typical Tuesday was a truck driver forgetting his paperwork, a minor infraction that still caused a disproportionate amount of bureaucratic chaos. But this particular week was about to be different. One night, a delivery had come in after the evening shift, a massive tractor trailer rumbling in from some corner of the country. It dropped off a shipment of, well, to be honest, I can't remember what it was. It was just another box on a pallet, another barcode in a system of millions. The next morning, the sun was barely over the horizon, and the air was still cool with the lingering chill of dawn. A corporal on his morning rounds was doing a quick check of the dock when he saw a dot. It was leaning against a stack of crates, a bizarre, makeshift object that looked profoundly out of place. It was a long stick, perhaps a length of rebar, with what appeared to be some odd metal and piping attached to the end. The pieces were crudely welded together, with wires of some sort wrapped around the whole thing. The sheer amateurishness of it was almost its most disturbing feature. To an untrained eye, which was everyone on that dock, it looked suspicious. It was a chaotic mess of components, but the kind of chaotic mess that, in a military setting, immediately screams improvised explosive device. The corporal didn't hesitate. His training kicked in, overriding the initial disbelief. He took one look, his heart seizing in his chest, and backed away slowly. He didn't touch it. He didn't get close. He went straight to the nearest phone and, his voice a tight, frantic whisper, explained what he had seen. The panic, once born, spread like wildfire. The words suspicious device and possible IED travel faster than the speed of light in a military installation. Within minutes, the sirens were blaring, a sudden jarring wail that shattered the peaceful morning. The entire warehouse was put on immediate lockdown and a full evacuation order was issued. My team and I were ushered out into the parking lot, standing around in the cold morning air with 100 other bewildered people, all of us staring at the massive building, now an object of fear. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Rumors flew, whispered from one shivering soldier to the next. "What's going on? Is it real? I heard they found a bomb." We were shut down for upwards of an hour, the clock ticking by in excruciatingly slow increments as we waited for the cavalry to arrive. And the cavalry did arrive in the form of a heavily armored E-aid team. They drove up with a grim, practiced efficiency, their vehicle an intimidating beast of metal and specialized equipment. They suited up, a bomb suit inflating to the size of a small minivan, and moved with a careful, deliberate grace toward the dock. The entire base held its breath, 1,000 pairs of eyes fixed on the man in the bomb suit, who looked more like a spaceman than a soldier. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the all-clear was sounded. A sergeant from the EOD team, his Helmet now off and a look of profound exhaustion on his face, walked over to our CO. "Sir," he said, barely suppressing a laugh. It was a muffler. On a stick. From some truck driver who didn't want to pay for a motel room and decided to do a little repair on the spot. The collective sigh of relief was almost audible. The bomb was just a discarded car part, a forgotten bit of trash from a night shift. Trucker who probably had no idea the chaos he had caused. The trucker, in his infinite wisdom, had decided a muffler could be welded back on using a stick as a temporary handle, and then, in his haste to get back on the road, had simply left the tool of his repair behind. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated farce, a potent reminder that sometimes the greatest threats are born not of malice, but of staggering human stupidity. The Orange Apocalypse, my second tale, is a different kind of memory, a deployed experience. That had nothing to do with people, everything to do with the environment. It was a memory painted in a single, overwhelming color, orange. The news had come through the radio that morning. An incoming sandstorm, a big one. We were a small forward operating base, just a collection of prefabricated buildings and tents, surrounded by a perimeter of HESCO barriers. We'd heard about sandstorms, of course, but none of us had ever actually seen one. We didn't really know what to expect. So, with a sense of morbid curiosity, a few of us sat outside the living quarters, nursing lukewarm coffees and waiting for the show to begin. The first sign was the wind. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the air. A cool breeze that felt different from the usual hot, dry gusts. Then, on the far horizon, a low, indistinct blur. It was a hazy, yellowish-brown line that seemed to stretch from one end of the world to the other. Slowly, that line grew. It was a wall of dirt and sand, a geological force of nature, moving with a horrifying inevitability. We watched as the buildings in the distance just disappeared. It wasn't a fade. It was a deletion. It was as if someone had turned down the graphic settings on life itself. The world just got swallowed in this odd, suffocating orange haze. One minute, there was a building. The next, there was nothing but a wall of particulate matter. After that, for a few hours, all you could see were the floating orange lights, the street lights on our base, their pale glow rendered surreal and spectral by the sand. We went inside, sealing every door and window with a kind of desperate finality, but it was useless. The sand was too fine, too relentless. It found every crack, every seam, every minuscule imperfection. Everything inside, from our bunks to our consoles, was quickly coated in a fine, silty layer of orange dust. It got in our eyes, in our teeth, in our lungs. It was an assault on every sense, a reminder of how small and fragile we were in the face of the planet's raw power. The storm eventually passed, leaving a world that was quieter, cleaner, and covered in a layer of fine red dust that took weeks to truly get rid of. The memory of the floating orange lights remains a powerful, almost spiritual vision of nature's indifference. The Wiccan in the shower room, my last story, while not as dramatic as a sandstorm or a bomb scare, is perhaps the most surreal and memorable moment of my military training. It's a tale of barracks life, a young trainee, and a very angry NCO. A new group of trainees had just arrived, green and full of nervous energy. We were all crammed into a building, a rotating cast of characters living in close quarters. One night, after hours, a private from a different platoon decided to play a prank on one of his bunkmates. He thought it would be funny to tell the other kid he was going to perform a Wiccan ceremony to summon a demon in the shower room. It was all a joke, a way to scare the new guy. Except the new guy didn't take it as a joke. He ran, panicked, to the NCO on duty. The NCO, a barrel-chested staff sergeant with a booming voice and a zero-tolerance policy for nonsense, was not amused. He found the prankster trying to pack up his supplies, a few candles and some colored chalk, and dragged him, by the scruff of his neck, out of the shower room and into the middle of the barracks floor. We all stopped what we were doing. Attendu or doing. Silent audience to the dressing down that was about to occur. The staff sergeant's voice, which could already be heard across a parade ground, seemed to fill every corner of the building. "Trainee," he roared, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. "I like you. You're a good soldier. But if you ever try to summon Satan in my shower room again, I swear to God." The rest of his tirade was lost in a mix of terrified silence and suppressed laughter from the rest of us. The trainee, pale and trembling, could only nod his head. It was a bizarre, hilarious moment that perfectly encapsulated the absurdity of military life, a world where the mundane and the supernatural could collide in the most unexpected and unforgettable ways.